So today we're going to do an assessment of the undercarriage on my mini skid steer. The first thing I wanted to do was get the weight off of the tracks so that I can start to disassemble them. I started it by lifting the front of the mini skid steer up using its own hydraulics, and then I was going to jack the back up and put cribbing under it. But I actually have another idea based on what some guys had commented online. So to start, I actually want to let the front of the machine back down. With the machine sitting on level ground, I am going to measure to see how far off the ground the tail of the machine is. So it looks like it's about 7 1/8 to 7 1/4 inches. So now I want to make a spacer, a block that is just shorter than that. So right about 7 inches or a hair more. I'm going to use a couple old pieces of lumber here to make my spacer block. I've got my wood cut, and now I'm going to stack some pieces of wood together, essentially making kind of a mini sawhorse that I will then slide under the back of a mini skid steer. Okay, so now I have my little mini sawhorse ready, and I am going to tuck it underneath the back of the mini skid steer, just like this, right below this cross tube. Note that I'm not lifting on the operator station because that is a separate piece of metal, and I don't want to put loading on it. So I'm going to put this sawhorse underneath the structural side panels and see if I can lift up the front nose and get it to pivot back up onto this sawhorse, thereby raising the whole track off the ground. It turns out we have a little stowaway in the way of our sawhorse. So this is a little chain that was on there as, I think, a drag point, and it's being held on by a broken carabiner. So I'm going to cut this off, get that out of our way. There we go. Let that cool off. Okay, now we can use our sawhorse. So I'm going to start the machine and lower the front boom to lift up the front like I did before, except now I'm hoping that the back will pivot on our new little sawhorse. Okay, we're going to move it further ahead. Okay, I think I'm off the ground. I'm going to try spinning the tracks. Oh, hey, look at that. Actually, now I'm curious what the tracks just look like movement-wise when I'm off the ground here. So see if anything looks like it's wiggling or looks loose or weird. I can definitely feel some grinding or rattling of some sort. I'll go backwards. Now let's look at the right-hand side. I mean, I definitely feel like there's more vibration there than there should be, so time to do a closer inspection. So I'm still going to start my maintenance on the right side because it has the most obvious need for maintenance. The way you get the track off is actually super simple. So there is a big bolt in there a screw that is compressing a spring, and that is pushing against the front idler, and so that the front idler is being pushed outward, and that is pulling the track tight. So I'm going to lube that screw up. Just to make sure that it gives me as little trouble as possible, and back the tension off that front idler. So I need to do that through this access panel here. Yep, so that came off really easily. You can see the inside looks pretty clean, outside scraped up. Got a nice assortment of rock and dirt, so I think I'm going to go ahead and vacuum this out. Okay, so now I can clearly see everything in there. There's no more hard packed dirt in the bottom of that compartment, and this one doesn't have any more rocks or piles of dirt in it either. So pretty good place to be. So I think now I'm going to try vacuuming that screw out. So what you do is you first take out that little keeper bolt there, and then that allows you to slip that that keeper off the big bolt, and then you loosen the big bolt. So the keeper bolt and keeper plate both came out without any problem at all. The bolt is, the threads are a little bit worn on it, and this plate has seen better days. I might just get a new one of these from Vermeer. But I just checked, and I don't have a socket handy at the moment for this nut. It is 1 1/8", so I do have a wrench here. But when I went to turn it, it was very stiff. This plate, when you loosen this, oh, you know what? No, actually, I need to tighten it, don't I? And it will take this plate and shift it over to the left, and that will allow the idler to also shift to the left, which will loosen the track. I need a longer wrench that's 1 1/8" or a socket. So this 3/4 inch drive ratchet should provide me a lot more leverage. So see if I can get it to turn with this. Oh yeah. Yeah. Really turns pretty easily once you get enough leverage. Really make sure it's got plenty of lubrication. Let's see if my impact can back this out. So again, I'm turning this as if I'm tightening it. And this impact's pretty small, even though it's a 1/2 inch drive, so we'll see. It's moving it. It's very noisy, but it's moving it. Putting in the old earplugs. Okay, so now the track is definitely loose. A bigger impact would have done that a lot faster. Again, that little stubby M12 impact has never really impressed me with its power. So now to get this off, I'm just going to crib up the bottom a little bit. So we just need to push the idler, the front idler, back as far as we can, and then slide the track off of the idler. So I'm using this cribbing to hold up on the bottom. The slack in the track will be taken up by the sag in the bottom if I don't hold up on it. So I want the slack up here by the idler. There we go. Pull out my cribbing. These tracks are heavier than they look. And lift it off the drive sprocket. Slide this end out. I actually don't think I'm going to get it out from around that rear idler. I think I need more ground clearance than I currently have. I actually had to use a car jack and lift up the front of the skid steer and then put two additional layers of cribbing underneath the front and then set it back down. There we go. The important lesson there is that on the back, I needed a block that was 7 inches tall in order to get it to slide underneath the rear. In the front here, you need something that is at least 14 inches tall in order to get this high enough to get the track off. Hey, is this video helping you or entertaining you? If it is, leave a comment down below or like the video and maybe consider subscribing. I appreciate it. It helps out. So the tracks are almost new, so I'm not worried about the tracks. So let's take another look at our sprocket and idlers. So the sprocket has a little bit of play in it. I'm going to assume that that backlash is okay. The idler here turns kind of hard, but it's definitely not loose. I don't know, I might just take that off and clean it up. This roller, terrible. That one, actually also terrible. This one feels pretty nice, really. This one feels pretty nice, and that one is terrible. The front idler, well, it feels pretty tight, so I'm going to say that it's okay. One thing that I did notice is that when I was taking the track off, this whole thing, this whole undercarriage wiggled up and down. It's hard to see on camera, but it moves up and down just ever so slightly, maybe a 32nd of an inch. So there is a bolt right there that I think that's supposed to be tight. It is not tight. So that may be what I was hearing when I heard, you know, a significant rattling sound. I'm going to just go ahead and take all this off, try to get the front idler out, all the rollers and the rear idler, and clean them up on the bench. And then I can hose all this off and let it dry overnight. So let's start with our friends the rollers. Appears there's a nut on the back side and a bolt head here, so it's just purely squeezing those rollers. So I can feel the studs, or the bolt, sticking out the back of the nut just a little bit. So I want to lube that up so that it can pull through the nut more easily, because they're very dirty by the feel of it. Feels like 15/16. Okay, let's just see what happens here if I just try to take one of these bad ones off. Nothing is the answer. Milwaukee really disappointed me on this 1/2-inch stubby M12 impact. It's always seemed gutless to me. I could never get anything apart. I don't even take lug nuts off a passenger car. Those are just torqued to 100 foot-pounds. It's just been a big disappointment. And it was not cheap either. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Nada. Let's see if I can get it with just a breaker bar. Yep. It moved. See, in my mind, a $250 impact should have been able to do that. Okay, I think I found the perfect thing. It's a 15/16 combination wrench. So let's try this. Okay, so now the wrench is holding on the backside, and I'm not even gonna try that impact again. Not until it gets extremely loose. Okay, so that feels very loose to me. Let's try it. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything. I could actually got that bolt bound back up somehow. Come on, you gotta be able to get this now. So I'm gonna hold the roller. Okay. The roller, yeah, is totally out of it. So this is stationary. This is meant to be stationary. This is the center of the roller, and it is compressed between the two side plates using that bolt, and you can see how worn it is on one side. I'm not going to try to replace the bearings in this thing. It's going in recycling, I do believe. Let's see if this idler, if I can get it out. How does it come out? Oh, well, that's easier than I thought. Well, look at that. Okay, well, the front idler is out. I will clean this up. It seems tight. Like I think it's fine. I'm just going to clean it up and I'll put this back on later. This is the tension spring, and here's the tensioner plate. Go. So this is the screw that keeps tension on that spring. The spring sits on that plate, just slides over this, and when you turn this bolt counterclockwise, this plate moves up, compressing the spring against the back of the idler. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these rollers off, so let's do that and fast forward. So I got the rollers off without too much trouble. Now I'd like to get this rear idler off, just if nothing else to clean it up. And it is the same size hex as the track tensioner was, so same size bolt, which means it is 1 1/8 inch. So I've got 1 1/8 inch wrench on the back side. Try to put a little bit of lubrication on the nut. There we go. Okay, I feel like this is very loose, so I'm going to give the little stubby a crack at it, at finishing it off. Yeah, I mean, it was basically done. I will clean it up to be sure, but I think it's okay. This feels really tight, almost like a new bearing. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up. So the only thing that concerns me a little bit is still this bolt being loose here. So it's a bolt that goes through the side of the frame and it looks like it threads directly into this plate. And if you can see, if I lift up on it, see that is really not good. It seems like if I just lift up on it and tightened it in that position, it would probably be fine, because that's how the machine is operating, right? Normally force pushes up on this, and so having it in that position I think would be more favorable. I'm not going to tackle that tonight. So I'm going to give this a bath and then repeat this same process on the other side. So I started working on the left-hand side track here, and to my surprise, the keeper on the track tensioner was laying inside the compartment, and the keeper bolt has been broken off. This compartment is closed. In other words, the bolt head should still be in there. You can see there's some serious corrosion on that bolt, so looks like it was fatiguing and just came off. So perhaps it was over tightened at some point. So I'm going to replace these bolts and probably the little keeper plate, because this one is a little bit wallered out as well. So those should not be too expensive. Okay, so I have both sides totally disassembled except for the sprockets and washed. So now I'm going to let them dry overnight. And my last thing that I'm going to check for the day is I'm actually going to start it up and drive forward and backward and just see if I hear any noises, because before there was a lot of clickety clacketing, and I want to make sure it's not something inside the drive motors themselves. So if there's right now, when I drive it forward and backward, it should be extremely quiet because there's nothing hooked up to the sprockets. So let's see. Engine running, so I'm going to now push the joystick forward, and that was all the way forward, back to center, going rearward. You can see it spins at a slower speed in reverse. Okay, so that's good. I just wanted to make sure that it was perfectly quiet, and to my ear, it is perfectly quiet. I'm going to go full throttle and work the hydraulics all the way in forward and reverse. I don't know if you can hear it, but the fan belt is squealing. Okay, so the drives are very smooth and silent. Very smooth and silent. That's a wrap for the day. I need to get 3 new rollers for sure, and I might try swapping the bearings on another 3 rollers perhaps. The bearings on those are not out yet, but I can tell that they're going. Worst case scenario is I'll just buy maybe 6 new rollers. You gotta do what you gotta do to take care of equipment. But anyway, that's a wrap for the day. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.